Hey guys, Trev from the Struggling Artist Podcast, and I want to talk to you real quick about Struggling Artist Record Club. The Struggling Artist Record Club is a vinyl record subscription service where I hunt and curate the best punk and punk-adjacent music out there and mail their record to your door each and every month. Imagine finding your new favorite band from across the country without ever having to leave the house. It doesn't get much better than that. The excitement of discovering new music just got that much easier. As a member of the Struggling Artist Record Club, you are going to receive some of the best music you've ever heard from bands you may never even heard of. Whether you've been collecting records for years or just starting out, the Struggling Artist Record Club is designed specifically for you. And right now, all new members get a Struggling Artist Record Club exclusive along with the monthly selection. So head to StrugglingArtistRecordClub.com, pick a membership, and start building that collection today.
You're listening to the Struggling Artist Podcast.
People need to be entertained. They need the distraction.
With your host, Trev Allen.
I wish to God that somebody would do something to block out the voices in my head for 5 minutes.
Hey everybody, our friend Rev Peters from the Drowns has returned to get some stuff off of his chest. We also did an AMA, and we just kind of chopped it up for a little bit. Stick around to the end of the episode to hear a song from his band, The Drowns, and we'll catch you on the flip side of this one. It's a very special episode. Episode 270 of the Struggling Artist Podcast. Struggling Artist presents Rev versus the music industry. You're steering the boat today, pal, because you were like, hey, I need to come on and I got to talk about this. And I said, okay. And I was like, how's next week?
I love that, though. I love that you were cool with that.
Yeah, no, this is like, I love this stuff, you know? I wish this could be a full-time thing. Maybe one day, you know?
I think you're one of the great unappreciated rock and roll journalists of our time.
Thank you. I would never consider myself a journalist though, but I do thank you for that.
I mean, yeah, I guess it's a broad term. When people are like, "You're a rock star," I'm like, "No," but I do play guitar on stage. I do all those things.
No doubt. I was trying to think the last time we did this. It was right before you went on tour in February, right? For the record,
yeah, because Blacked Out would have just come out. Yeah, or was about to come out.
Yeah,
I don't remember.
I think that's what it was. Yeah, it was for that. So, you see over here? You see? Well, I'm using my mouse like you can see it. Do you see the poster on the wall?
I do.
Yeah, I got that.
That's
and then
awesome.
I've got Blind Adam in the Federal League put out these 3 like limited prints that an artist friend of theirs made, and I snagged those. So those are the 3 that go around it. So. It's a nice,
that's awesome. Man.
Yeah, that's a cool little thing. You met Adam, right? Did you meet Adam?
I don't know.
Oh, I'm trying to remember if you met Adam or not. Maybe.
Did we play together?
Oh no, I sent them your record. That's what it was. I sent you their record. That's what it was.
Yeah, I have their stuff. I don't know if I met them yet.
Yeah. No, you met Charlie. You met Charlie out there on Radar Waves. Yeah.
Yeah, and they were fucking great.
Oh,
and
they were
super nice guys.
Yeah. Yeah,
that was a fun show, man.
He hit me up. Me up after the show, and he was like, a lot of people in Rev's position, or he just said the Drowns in general's position, could just play that like rock star like persona and like just kind of be a dick. And he was like, they were nothing but nice to us and no reason to be.
Yeah, of course.
And he was like, there's no reason to be.
Yeah, no, he was great, man. And like we keep in contact now on Instagram, and man, he's just a nice guy, and they were super fun. That whole show was really fun too. I mean, I love Chicago, dude. What a good town.
I love Chicago too. And like a lot of my favorite bands are from Chicago. Not like a lot of my favorite bands that aren't from New England are from like Chicago. It's like Seattle, Chicago, and then like all my stuff in New England. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, for obviously New England for sure. Like, you know, there's lots of Massachusetts stuff and lots of Rhode Island stuff. And I was just talking with somebody the other day about how there's a bunch of good bands from Baltimore. Yeah, and nobody ever talks about Baltimore. But I mean, probably part of the reason why there's good bands from there is that there's a good amount of oppression in that city, and it's a rough city to live in.
Yeah.
But you know, oppression breeds great art. So
yeah, Baltimore and DC have a lot of good bands. Yeah,
DC too.
I talked to quite a bit of them too on the podcast. Like Curse Words out of DC are really good. Let's see.
That is a great band name.
Yeah. They do these like sci-fi concept albums too. They're really good.
Oh, cool.
They're really good. Cool. Yeah. And then Paperback Tragedy out of Baltimore. I think they're out of Baltimore. They're awesome. You know, there's quite a bit there. I think about all the bands that I've talked to over the last 4 years, and like, I'm like, Jesus, like this network is pretty big.
Absolutely.
You know?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I try not to spoon feed you too many bands. You know what I mean? Like,
I love it
to listen to. Yeah, obviously, but like interviews and stuff like that, I try not to be too on it. You know?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for you to get back to me about a couple of them.
Yeah, word. Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking
about. You know, so you know, I do. I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Honestly, the only thing that's better than me curating records for the record club is people introducing new music to me. So, you know what I mean? So,
yeah, you know, I have a good buddy that I don't think you and I we may have talked about. I mean, not on the podcast, but casually, you and I probably discussed. One of my best friends is a guy named Lucas Myhan, and he plays bass in a surf band in Seattle called the Destroyers. It's kind of a horror themed surf band. They're amazing. And he and I literally text each other records nonstop. And we have this like kind of verbal rapport over text to where it's like, you know, if someone doesn't talk about what you sent them, it's never like weird or awkward. It's just like move on to the next band, you know? Right. So then later on, it'll come up in conversation. I did like them. I didn't like them. But it's just this constant sending.
Yeah.
And we were at Fest together in Florida one year. And there was a guy there who I had seen at shows before named Chris, and he's from Las Vegas. And Lucas and him were doing the same thing. So this last time when I saw Chris in Las Vegas, I was like, hey, man, I heard that you and Lucas, you know, send bands back and forth. I was like, I know kind of what you're into. And so now I do that with that dude. And so, and I love that, dude. Cast a wide net, you know, because there's so much music out there. People forget that. There's so much music out there.
It's criminal how good some of the bands are, and like no one knows who they are.
Absolutely. Mark Linden Unloved. No one's gonna fucking know those records outside of like a small
dude. I literally have this right next to me.
That is crazy.
This record is so good.
Are we? We're live right now, right?
Yeah. Well, we're not.
Yeah, that's crazy. We're recording. Because okay, so I didn't see that before.
No,
I just thought like that's one of the most underrated bands I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I was gonna ask you. So like I want to do this. I need some rev encouragement here. I need some rev encouragement. So I want to do this thing with like, it's not really for. I mean, I guess it's for like the record club and the podcast, but like.
Okay.
I just want to like kind of go on like Instagram live or reels or do a reel or I don't know, TikTok and like kind of talk about a record that I have, you know what I mean? And then put something together with it. And I want to do it with this one because like it was funny the other night I had a box full, like a little box full of fucking codes for digital downloads that I just, when I get them in records, I just throw them in the box. And then I'm like, I want to listen to this and I want to kind of do something with it like digitally. So I started going through them, and that was one of them. And I've had this record for years. You know what I mean? So like I got the digital download, and then like I was like, man, I haven't listened to this in like forever. And I'm listening to it and I'm like, this is so fucking good. And it's been like, I've been listening to it nonstop. So I wanted to do this like little thing, but I just like, for some reason I just lost like, I don't know. What's the word I'm looking for? Not I don't want to say I lost the balls to do it, but like I lost like the
like the momentum.
Yeah, I'm like, oh, I don't know what to do. I'm almost like afraid to do a video, which is weird.
Nah, man. Yeah, I mean, that's what's funny is that's some of the stuff I wanted to talk about was like the social media aspect of music these days. But I think that's great. I think it's a great idea, and I think you should do it. And TikTok has a very simple platform for lives and things like that, to where you can't go live unless you have 1,000 followers, right? And that's smart to them. Like they did that so people would stay more engaged. And the way they do it, you can't easily accrue followers, right? They also have paid ads set up really simple for someone, so you can literally pay with like Apple Pay from your phone, and you can get those 1,000 followers real quick. But you running the type of business you do with the record distro, it's like we just used the term cast a wide net a minute ago. It's the same thing. It's like, you know, one of the things I love about you, and I love about you and I's friendship when it comes to sending music, is that I don't even if you were like, you know, here's a crazy jazz album, I wouldn't care about the genre or anything. I'm gonna check it out because you told me to. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think that because you do that so well, people would love that, especially on TikTok. You know, they just see this fucking dude really hyped about this album, and so I think it's a great idea. I think you should absolutely do it.
I think my biggest fear is like getting it wrong. But it's subjective, right?
How?
It's subjective, right?
How?
It's art. It's subjective, right? So it's how.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. I just get like this, like, I get down and I'm like, I have no business doing what I do. You know what I mean? Like, so.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Of course. You know, Jake and I talk about that a lot, because Jake from the Drowns, Jake and I both, like, we're really hard on ourselves, and we will see the other one do it, and we comment on it, but we never want to take that away from the other one, because that's literally why we're good at what we do. It's because nothing's ever good enough. You know, it's that weird balance. You got to stop in the moment and acknowledge how far you've come and how much you've done and be proud of it, but you also can't stop the fucking train. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's one of those things to where...
Coincidentally enough, that record has a train on the front of it. The one...
Yeah, it was a fucking great album. Oh, man. It's good to hear from you, man. It's been a little while.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I've been busy, so.
Yeah, you have. You just got back? Did you just get back like 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, we did a month in Europe. Yeah.
And then
it was awesome.
Yeah, good. You were here. You went the East Coast. And oh, by the way, my parents are back in their house. So next time you come, you do an East Coast tour. I'm all yours.
Okay, good. Yeah, still have an open invite, man. Still.
Yeah. I'm all yours. And
or fly to Chicago, do some like Midwest with us or something.
Yeah, we'll talk. All
right, cool.
Yeah. But yeah, I so you came out on the East Coast. You guys started out here this year, right? Or did you do you did a short run on the West Coast and then came out here?
Yeah, well, we did a full US, but it was like quick. It was like a bridge to like a lot of the drives were fucking gnarly. And it was just kind of a hastily run. We wanted to just cover as much ground as we could with the time that we had, because the new album came out, and thank fucking God it's doing good. So like people love the record, it's doing well, and so we wanted to make sure we drove it around, you know. But it was a fast tour, man. Like it was I don't know, 20 something shows. Like we had like 2 days off, and both of them were like long drives. Yeah. Like it was a drive day. That's why it was a day off. You know?
Like one of them was to here, right? One of the days off was you driving to here. Mm-hmm. You were like Pittsburgh?
Yeah.
Were you outside of Pittsburgh or something? And you drove from Pittsburgh to here?
Yes.
Yeah.
Somewhere in Pennsylvania, yeah. I don't remember it all.
Is that just like a blur when you guys do that stuff? Like, is it just like a blur to you?
Absolutely. You know what's funny is I wrote the song Blacked Out, the title track off the new record, and you think it's about getting fucked up, right? Yeah. And like, I feel like a lot of people, I wrote it like that, and I feel like a lot of people go like, oh, it must be about, you know, like people who know I'm sober are like, oh, it must be about when he was drinking. Or people who don't know I'm sober will be like, oh, he must be a partier. But if you read the verses, that song Blacked Out, the reference has nothing to do with booze. It has to do with not like allowing those things to be blurs, like not stopping in your tracks and going like, you know, I'm so grateful for what I've done and what I'm doing right now. And like, you know, the Buddhists call it being mindful, right? It's like, you know, being in that moment and allowing it all to happen. And I've referenced when I don't do that as, you know, as blackouts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's, if you read the verses, those are all just goofy fucking stories about us being on the road. That's all it is.
Yeah. That's awesome.
People think it's poetic and beautiful, and I guess to an extent it is, but it's really just me and my goofy friends going around the world.
I mean, if any, yeah, that's awesome, and that's awesome. But going back to it, if anyone who thinks you're a partier, it could be because you have a song about ketamine and coke.
Yes,
or ketamine and cola.
There's
ketamine and cola.
There is, yeah. See, well, that's what's crazy too, right? So, you know, because of the ketamine reference in that, the label, they had slight reservations about it. They were like, "Are you okay? Is everything all right?"
Yeah.
But that song is about a very good friend of mine who is, I mean, I think he's in his 50s now, was on antidepressants for a really long time. And now ketamine treatment just got legalized in Washington. Yeah. And so that song is not about partying. Yes, ketamine's a party drug, but it is literally about a friend of mine leaving those party times behind because he's now not, he doesn't have to do antidepressants and recreational drugs. And now he is on ketamine treatment, and it has turned his life around. And he always drinks soda when I see him. So that's why.
Well, so to a partier, the reference with that is like caffeine will keep you from hitting the hole. Any kind of upper will help you get away from hitting the K-hole. So that's why when we talked about that song after we recorded the last time, because I was like, what? Tell me about this one. You know what I mean? And it fits kind of like, again, like it's, if you know the story, like it's a great story, but it could fit two different meanings too. And again, it goes back to, music subjective or whatever. But I know you well enough to know you've been sober for how many years now? You've been sober for a while.
Just over 5 years.
Just over 5 years. Congratulations. And
thanks, man.
That's all right. I'll do enough partying for you. And I
appreciate that. And someone's got to carry the torch.
my partying days are, I don't know. They're very like, there's a big gap between them nowadays.
I mean, also you're a fucking tall dude. I feel like it would take a 30 rack just to like get you buzzed.
Nah. So what's funny? Like, because I don't really drink anymore. Like, I mean, I could drink beer. Like, I'll drink beer if I'm at like a friend's house for like a cookout. I can drink beer all day long, but I'm only drinking one beer every like 2 hours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
that makes sense.
Yeah. So
just
I'm
kind of pace it out.
Yeah, right? I pace it out. Like, but like in my binge drinking days, woo-wee, it was and no one wants to see a guy my size sloppy. You know what I mean? Like it's
absolutely.
It's
like a bear.
Yeah. It's just like it's like a bear at a picnic. Just So, but yeah, I mean, like I said, my those days are few and far between for me. Like I don't even remember the last time I got drunk. It was so long ago because it's not really.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've barely even seen you buzzed ever.
Yeah. So. There was one night I was at this place out in Malden, Faces Brewing Company, and like I legit had to I got to stop drinking because it's not that I was drinking a lot, but they're like high test like IPAs.
Yeah.
And it's a 90-minute drive home. I'm like, I'm either gonna sleep in the parking garage or I'm gonna go stop drinking, drink water, and have some food right now.
Well, that's one of the cool things about we play so much in Europe. That's the majority of what we do now. And over there, non-alcoholic beer is everywhere, and there's tons of options, and it doesn't have the stigma that it has here in the States. So, like if we were playing Texas and I was like, "Do you have an NA beer?" The guy would be like, "Fucking pussy."
Yeah.
Right. That would be like the response. To where in Europe, everyone drinks NA beer if you got shit to do the next day, you switch halfway through, and there's literally no judgment. It's just like a part of what they do because they're like, oh, I don't want to get fucked up, but I still want to hang out and have a good time. It's I wish we implemented that more here.
I think, me too. And a lot like my cousin's been sober. I think he's on 6 years now, and like he gets a tattoo every year for it and stuff. And like he drinks the NA beers, and he's like, I miss the taste of beer, So he'll like he'll have like he'll even get, they have like IPAs that are NA now. Like
there's a brewery called Athletic that has been winning normal beer awards, but with no alcohol in it. It's like a crazy award-winning brewery. Yeah, actually, my wife, when I came home, Tammy got me some for a late birthday present, like because they do special runs and stuff. And when I was a drinker, I really loved like skunky beers and sour beers. Mm-hmm. And so she got me like some specialty sour beer, which is great. but I can still enjoy that type of stuff, but it doesn't have the booze in it, which is great. And that brewery started for athletes that like during training still wanted to drink and hang out, but they didn't have anything. That's why they're called Athletic.
That's good. That's because you know what? You know what a lot of people did back in the day when they wanted to like party and still, but they couldn't because of because of bodybuilders, right? They had to watch their weight or fighters or whatever. They would do GHB, which is not good for you, you know? You know what I mean? So they would be like,
seriously, dude.
so they'd be like sipping on like a 5-hour energy thing, but it's really GHB and they're getting fucked up. But it's like, but for them, like there was no, like the next day they were fine and they didn't like they didn't put on any they didn't gain any water weight, you know what I mean? So I think having the NA beers are way better.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, so all right, so man, you hit me up and you said, hey, you need to come on and you need to talk about some things, and I am gonna give you the floor in just a minute because I want to get all this bad stuff. Well, I don't even know if it's bad, but if it's negative,
nah, it's not that bad.
Bad, but I mean, I want to get the beef out of the way, and then we can get back into like the happy positive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
So all right, so kind of tell me what's going on. First off, are you okay?
I'm great.
Okay,
yeah,
right.
it's honestly not that bad. It's just it's so funny. So many conversations have been coming up lately about like concert ticket prices and Ticketmaster, and there's been lots of conversations about like the price of goods, the price of records, like the price of shirts, and like a lot of people have been hitting me up with questions, and obviously like family members and stuff are asking me like, why the hell are these tickets so expensive, blah blah blah. And with the Ticketmaster lawsuit, it's in everybody's periphery right now, right? And so I just thought it was important for someone to address the fact that there's a lot of factors that go into that, right? And like, yes, Ticketmaster has this lawsuit, and everybody knows about Pearl Jam suing, Ticketmaster in the 90s and stuff. But Pearl Jam still works with Ticketmaster, right? Their whole thing was, and yes, they did ticketing by themselves for a while, or like in-house, but they do, like on the newest tour, you can buy their tickets through Ticketmaster. It's just with what Pearl Jam wanted was that the fees and everything are on the receipt, essentially. So you get your total, but the fees and everything are still in there, right? So one thing I wanted to bring up was, people are going to hate me for this, but part of the reason why ticket prices are so expensive are the Taylor Swifts and the Pearl Jams and the Willie Nelsons and these folks charging an insane amount of money for ticket prices. Like Taylor Swift is worth over $1 billion, right? She could absolutely lower her ticket price. And obviously you could argue, yes, she has a huge stage show and everything. And I totally get it. And she's an amazing artist. Don't get me wrong. Great artist, great songwriter. I absolutely like some of her stuff. But I think to go after just Ticketmaster seems like, low hanging fruit, right? It's like, put it like this. Like, let's say you have a copy of, the fucking Abbey Road, right? Like you have this record that's really sought after, right? And you go on Discogs and you look to sell that, right? And so you sell it for whatever. I'm throwing a number out there, $800, right? And so you sell that, right? That guy who bought it from you turns it around and puts it up for $3,000 to $5,000, right? Everyone would go, what the hell? Why would like this? I'm not going to do that. But one guy buys it, boom. The price of that record is now immediately skyrocketed, right?
Right.
So the average price of that is now huge. So I think one thing for people to keep in mind is that there are lots of people that are asking for too much money for a lot of this stuff. And I'm an artist. Keep in mind, I make money doing this. Like this is literally my life and my job, right? But it's also not all that it's about. Stability is great, but when it comes down to it, it's art. And I think one thing for people to keep in mind is if you are angry, like this is the whole point, the whole reason I wanted to talk to you. If people are angry about Ticketmaster charging fees, and remember Ticketmaster is a service that the bands couldn't do themselves, and they're mad about the high prices, then in my opinion, there's one way to fight against that. And that's go to the bottom rung. Go to the local artists, go to the local clubs, go to the record stores, buy records from independent artists. You know what I mean? Raise the bottom level so that way there's competition between the bottom price we're getting higher and the top price, because then if people decide like that they're choosing these lower echelon price points, then the top is going to have to lower to compete. And that's really the way to do it. You know, I'm not saying we shouldn't go after Ticketmaster. Charging, you know, abundant fees is crazy. And I hate that, especially for art. But it's the exact same conversation with like Spotify. Spotify is a necessary evil, and you have to have it now. If I took my stuff off Spotify, I wouldn't have a career. You know what I mean?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But the CEO, you know, came out and said that he pays nothing for his product, right? So it's like he's endorsing like, oh, you know, you got to find a business where you don't have to pay any overhead. And so, like, I used to work for Value Village back in the day. Like, I was a assistant manager at Value Village in Seattle. And when I was working there, I realized that they created a nonprofit that acquires clothing and secondhand goods. The nonprofit gets the clothing and then funnels it to Value Village for basically nothing. So they have gotten people to donate their product for them to then profit off of. Right. And that's the exact same thing with Spotify. Is at this point you have to donate your art. And it's like, people could say it's not donation, you get paid. It's essentially donation because you know it's 0.0089 cents or whatever on the dollar. So so the whole reason I wanted to talk about this is while Ticketmaster, I thought it was important that while Ticketmaster and, you know, high ticket prices are being talked about, like the Taylor Swift tickets are $750 to, you know, $1,500 easy.
Really?
Like, yeah, Pearl Jam tickets are $150, the lowest price point, the worst seats you can get, and well into $1,500, you know, $2,000 territory.
Jesus.
And that's just the normal market, not the resellers market, right? So the whole point I wanted to come on here and talk about is that while we're getting mad about all these fees, let's think about the root of the issue and how we can make that better. And the way to make that better in the art and in the music world is to regain what we've lost by supporting smaller artists and keeping them moving forward. That's it. That's my platform. That's my TED Talk.
No, it's a good point that you make, because like, it just sucks that we're in it where we have so many resources at our fingertips to hear new stuff, but we're in a place, I feel like, where the general population just wants to hear the hits. They want to hear the same thing over. And I'm, you know me, I'm like, hey, if you like this from, you know, 1976, why don't you try this song over here? And they just put this album out, and then they'll hear it and they'll be like, oh wow, you know what I mean? So like,
absolutely,
we need that. They just, because it used to be. I feel like there's enough documentation in the world that I'm not just making this part up. In like the 80s and like 90s, people couldn't wait to hear something new.
Yeah, of course. Well, I mean, one thing that's gone from that era is radio, though, right?
Well, like terrestrial radio is still there, but it's a corporation. It's corporate now, just like everything else, right? So,
well, and like, you know, there's the bygone era of Rush not being able to get out of Canada, and then one radio DJ in the Midwest playing a B-side by Rush because she thought it was cool, and then them getting huge in the United States. That era is gone.
Yeah.
Like, it obviously is. You know what I mean? You can't call in and request it anymore. And like, you're not having, you know, there's no Casey Kasem's. You're not getting spoon-fed what's the best music every week. And there's an upside and a downside, right? To where like you can go find anything in the world at your disposal via whatever streaming service you use, preferably Bandcamp, because that gives the most to the artist. But you can go find literally anything you want to. But the problem is people don't want to look. And back then it was spoon fed to them. They didn't have to look.
Right. And I want to be the person spoon fed. I want to be, here comes the airplane, you know, open your mouth, like, and then jam all this rock and roll down their throats. That's what I want to do. And that's what I try to do. You know what I mean? So
I fully support this.
Come see Uncle Trev. He'll give you, he'll teach you about music, you know?
I love that. You should go by Uncle Trev. That's great.
Oh man, yeah. So you're right. It sucks. I don't know what to do. I try everything in my power. I've come to the point where like I'm gonna. I don't know. Because like, you know, a lot of people are like, hey, why don't you get, you know, this band on or this band on, and they're like much bigger bands, and I'm like, now I'm thinking about if I do that, maybe their listeners will listen to the show more, and they'll find these other bands. So it's like, all right, maybe,
and that's the key. No, you're totally right. You stumbled right onto it though. That's the key, is that keeping those values with it though, right? Like, you know, you don't see Taylor Swift bringing, you know, young aspiring opening acts with her to her shows. You know, I'm not trying to just harp on Taylor Swift. She's just at the very top of like how expensive everything is right now.
Yeah.
But you don't see these bigger bands taking these young, not really known bands with them.
Dave Grohl. Dave Grohl's
thing.
the only person I know that does that. That will sit there in an interview where they're interviewing him about the Foo Fighters, and he'll be like, "Hey, have you heard of Wet Leg?" You know what I mean? Like he's
that's awesome.
He's
yeah,
that
sure.
like he's
I don't want to blanket everything and say there's not like, you know, some people doing that, but the vast majority don't. And you know, from somebody who's in that world, the reason why is because that would take some sort of effort. They'd have to go, you know, hey, I know that you are my manager, or you are, you know, my managers, my management team. I know you want to take this other artist that this other label is paying you to take, or we can get a better deal on, or you have prior business relations with. I would rather take this artist that no one knows. You know, that takes effort. And I think that's from their side of it. That is part of it. Like they do need that. They need, and I to touch on that too. Like, I do think another thing that could be great for the industry is for huge bands to do their big runs, right, with like these arena tours or whatever. And then I love when bands do like club show runs, you know, and not small clubs, but smaller clubs for a lower ticket price point. I think that's a great way to do it, because then also you can have openers, you know what I mean? You can have, and you're also supporting smaller venues at a local level. There was this huge push to support venues during COVID, and then all of it kind of teetered out, and now no one gives a shit again.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this is speaking for the U.S. in the U.S.
Right.
It's like, you know, we're still doing it, but a lot of people just aren't going to live music, and I think the price point has a lot to do with it.
Yeah, no,
So to bring it full circle, when someone goes Rev shitting on Taylor Swift, that sentence is what I mean by that. It's like the price point of how expensive it's becoming. The expectation of going out to see a live show is becoming so expensive that the idea of going to see live music on any echelon is getting, you know, not so household name anymore. And I think that's a huge tragedy. And one of the ways to fight that, like I said, is support smaller independent artists and local clubs.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, and it's also like I try to get out there as much as possible, and you and I talked about we touched on this last time, because we talked about how it's so different in Europe, right? It's like so different in Europe, where people are like, you know, well, number one, like they treat the arts differently than the United States does, right? So
absolutely,
here it's like you can't, like, oh, if you're an artist, like, oh, that's cute, you know what I mean? Like people fucking just down fucking play it so much, and it's bullshit. Like they, like,
they're like, oh yeah, cool, my brother has a band.
Yeah,
it's like,
it's
not the same. This is my job.
And with anything really, like you know, like I stopped writing for years because of like you know, my father would be like, why are you doing this? Like, what is this? You know what I mean? Like he just didn't get it. Like he was just like, why aren't you just out there turning a wrench on that car? You know what I mean? So,
of course, yeah, no.
So,
of course.
and I was doing that too, but like, I'm like, all right, I guess I gotta hold on. Let me throw away this, you know, 5 years worth of work in my notebook, and we'll head outside and, you know, fucking get pissed off at cars. Yeah, that's fun.
Yeah, for 40 years.
You know, yeah, it sucks, man. It sucks. I don't know. And I think you're right. The thing about, like, you know, supporting like more local stuff and more independent artists is going to, like, if with the raise of that, it's gonna have to bring the other part down. And that's economics, right? Isn't that just like just how, you know, how it should?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, that's the thing, is like, you know, the more you can level the playing field, the better, because then the top is going to come down a little bit more. You know, and I just had like an issue recently where I really wanted to go see Willie Nelson. You know, I've never seen Willie Nelson. I'm a huge fan, but I couldn't afford $200 for tickets, like per ticket.
Yeah.
For the cheapest, you know? And I get it. He's old. He's a legacy. I get it. But Willie Nelson doesn't have an elaborate pyrotechnic show. You know what I mean? Like, and I get it. It's a bigger show and it has a lot of production work, but it is, I think another thing to think about too, is that not all that goes to Willie Nelson.
Right.
Right. And so everybody is asking a lot. And a lot of times, unless you're Willie Nelson, unless you're Taylor Swift, you get the blast chunk as the artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You get the little taste, like guarantees, as you know, as we call them in the industry, the how much money a venue or a promoter guarantees we will be paid that night barely covers gas these days in the United States. Like that's, you know, that's like the base level. And then you make all your money off merchandise. Like the joke is we're traveling t-shirt salesmen, you know, that's what it is though. And so when you get mad at ticket prices, it's like, well, there's a lot of people in that line asking for way too much money, you know, so that then a target like Ticketmaster takes a lot of heat off a lot of other people. Yeah. And I think that getting angry at Ticketmaster isn't the answer. I think getting excited about independent artists and helping kind of manifest a new culture of supporting independent arts, that's the way to fucking do it, man.
How do we do it?
Start going to more shows locally. Start looking at local clubs, follow local promoters on social media. Go on Bandcamp and look at go to Spotify Suggests, right? When Spotify suggests things for you, like look at things on there. The band you haven't heard of, check that band out, see where they're from, see what their old bands were, see if they're touring. Check people don't check their like local concert schedules anymore. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'll still look at, like, I'll go to like whatever club and I'll look at the entire list and be like, oh, is there anything coming up I want to see? That's one way to do it. That's, you know, just go to shows, go do that. Buy a shirt, buy a record. Don't order it online. Like you can, and that's cool if that's the only option you have. But if you do have the option to do it at a live show, that's the way to get the band the most money at that time. Yeah. You know, and say hi. Say hi to those people. Make a rapport with that artist. And if they're rude to you, fuck them forever. You know what I mean? Like judge them. Artists should be judged by how they behave in the rest of their life. And that's the fucking cross I'll die on, man. Like they absolutely should. You should be able to say hi to an artist that's around. You know what I mean? Like I told this story before, but I got a job working for the Eagles, and I won't go into details about what I was doing, but it was like one show. And one thing is someone in their management team told me I just wasn't supposed to look them in the eyes. And I was like, what? And they were like, if you see the guys backstage, and I get it, hectic life, I get it. I'm small potatoes. They're the fucking Eagles, whatever. Right? Like, but to me, to be at that point, to be like, to tell somebody else, don't let people look me in the eyes because I don't want to have a conversation. There's different ways to handle that. And I feel like that's at a certain point that's judgeable. So you better fucking, you know that when I saw those dudes backstage as they were headed to the stage, I was like trying to make eye contact with them just to be like, no, wait, dude, that's not cool. Yeah. But what I'm getting at is that the art that you love, you can be a part of where it comes from and the people who make it by just being a fan or a collector. You absolutely can, you know? Like the way that you do your record club. This is exactly what I'm talking about. And every single time you and I talk, I always say, thank you for doing what you do, because if it wasn't for guys like you and the conversations that you have about music, no one would give a shit anymore. None of this would ever happen. And that's all part of it. It's like the fans can also do that. The collectors can also do that. You can be more involved on a base level. You don't have to comment on their Instagram and on their Facebook all the time. But when they come to your town, say hi, buy a record, buy a shirt, hang out, ask questions. What were your other bands? Do you know anybody else that if I like you guys, I might like? Like these conversations, they need to keep happening. So that way we all don't feel so distanced. We don't feel $750 tickets worth of fucking distance from the artist. But that's my take. I'm just some fucking asshole from Seattle. So who knows, you know? But that's the whole reason I wanted to hit you up today.
I like it. I like it. What? So you said you had some. You wanted to kind of speak to other artists too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I get questions all the time because the Drowns within like 7 years or whatever picked up so much momentum and we're able to do so much so quick. And so we're constantly getting like, if anything goes to our social media, it all goes to me. So we're constantly getting questions that are like, you know, how do I get people to listen to my band? How do I get more people to listen to my band? How do I, you know, get labels to check us out? How do I get more opportunities? And I always say, you've heard me say this before. I'm like, go on the road forever.
Yeah.
You know, is it really what you want? Then go on the road, figure it out. You know what I mean? Like you could do the, you know, the Post Malone thing and you could put out a single every now and then and just test the waters and see how it does instead of putting out like a full length or something. Right.
Mm-hmm.
But you're basically taking the easiest route that gives you the slightest, like the lowest chance of actually getting noticed. Like put the hard work in and go. And if you're in a town at least once, twice a year, right? Like a town that's not your town, you're going to start to accrue a following just because you put out the effort to go there.
Right.
So that's a big one. Another one I like to tell younger bands, and the reason why I'm saying all this stuff is not because I want to criticize what anybody else is doing, but I want this to continue. I want more younger bands to be out there. I want, you know, like I have a buddy who's a literary professor, a music literature professor, and I asked him how he was doing, and he was like at work, and he was saying that it's tougher these days because nobody wants to cover bands. They all cover like DJs or like dudes who do remixes and things like this. And that's fine. It's fine, but it's not my thing. And I have nothing to do with that. And I just want to protect the thing that I love, which is bands making music they believe in. And so I think that's I want to keep nurturing young bands getting out there and young bands like getting together and practicing and making art because it's the greatest feeling in the world. So another way to do that is get a good recording. Yes, you can record from home, right? Yes, you can, but you always get what you paid for. And if it's easy, it's not always the best. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you could argue that sometimes like a garagey recording is what makes a band sound great, right? Like King Khan and Barbecue Show have arguably the worst recordings ever, but I loved that band, right?
What? Wait, whoa, what? What was the name of that band?
Oh, King Khan and Barbecue Show. Do you not know that? It's two guys.
No, yeah, I don't know that.
Oh, you know what's funny is once you check them out, you'll have heard their songs before.
Okay.
They're great, but it's like garagey and lo-fi. And Mark, the drummer for that band, is amazing. Barbecue. He also has stuff under the name of Barbecue, but but it's like, you know, if garagey is what you're going for, there still is a good way to do a garagey lo-fi recording and a bad way. And so put your money together, save money, get a good recording, go work with a producer or an engineer who's, you know, great at their job and have done something similar to what you want to do. It's like getting a tattoo, you know. Why would you go to a traditional Japanese tattoo artist if you wanted to get, you know, like some sort of like crazy tribal work? It's like they just, you know, yes, they could do it, but it's not their thing. They wouldn't have better input on it, and they probably wouldn't turn out the best because of that. So I think getting a good recording is huge, and I think a lot of bands skip that. They always want to do the cheapest thing. Also, I mean, I didn't even think about this before, but buy good gear. Like, that's a good one for a smaller band. Like, if I come to a venue and there's a band opening for us, like, I'm always going to check them out. Like, I always try to. But it's like if they get there and they have, like, the most budget gear, like, they're not going to get the same look as if, you know, it's a band that's committed to this and has, you know, saved money to buy good gear and sound good and present themselves, you know, good. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's I didn't even write that one down, but I think that's probably important too, is like, you know, put everything you fucking have into it.
Yeah.
Or don't do it. You know what I mean? Or admit to yourself that you're going to do it casually.
Right.
And that's fine too. It's totally okay. Like, it's cool to be a weekend warrior. That's awesome. The fact that you're making art is killer, but don't perpetuate this idea that something is immediately going to happen, or you're just going to get bummed if you don't put the work in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's good advice, my friend. Good advice.
I feel like you're on my podcast today.
No, I this is what I like, man. Listen, the less I talk, the better. You know what I mean? So
No.
people hear my stupid stories all the time. It's they want to hear real shit, you know? So that's good.
Yeah, well, I'm not mad at anybody. I just thought of it, and I was talking about it like with my dad the other day, and I was talking about Ticketmaster, and I was talking about like independent arts with a friend of mine and my buddy at his record store, and I was like, man, I'm a fucking text Trev, and I should just be like, hey, let's just talk about this, because I think nobody thinks about this part of it,
right?
You know,
Yeah.
Nobody thinks about this part of it because it's not on Spotify, you know, and it's not on Facebook being fed to you. The fact that you need to like support artists that don't have that much money if you want the whole fucking train to keep rolling.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing, right? So like a lot of people, yeah, they just listen. You know how many musicians that I've met that I've like when I was younger, I'm like, these guys are millionaires. And they're not. You know what I mean? Like they all got jobs, like, you know, and I'm like, oh, so like I think having like Spotify, it disconnects you from the artist. I feel like it's a necessary evil for both, for listeners and for bands, right? For musicians. But like having everything so much like at our disposal like that is good, but it's bad because like it disconnects you from the artist. They just like you're on a playlist that they like. And they're like, yep, and the Spotify is this big $1 billion company, so they just assume like you're getting paid. And no matter how much we preach, they don't pay the artist shit. It just goes, it doesn't fall on deaf ears, but it gets forgotten because like you only going by what you have in your hand, which is your phone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like,
well, and that playlist, you know, you have one song on that playlist from an entire album. You know what I mean? And so that's paying that same, like you could listen to that playlist 100 times a day. That one song, that 100 times a day is going to get that person fuck all for money.
Yeah.
Like it's not going to, you know, and most people don't listen to the entire record. That's a big thing that's going on that Spotify has created too.
Oh, it's,
you know, I think also you could say Napster had a hand in that back in the day, like Song Trade and stuff, but yeah, it's like no one's listening to a full album anymore. Like there's no more cassette days where you gotta listen to side one to get to the end. To the song you like is like the fourth track. You gotta listen to the first three. You know,
just for us old heads, man. Just for us old heads. But I tell you what, I did have someone on recently. Their episode dropped this past week, and she had said like she thinks it's coming back around because one of the things that she hates is like TikTok radio on Sirius XM. They just play clips. They don't even play a full song. They're just playing like the hooks, the hooks that you can get from TikTok. They're just playing them on a loop.
Yeah.
So like,
that's crazy.
But she said like people are kind of coming back around to the album, like wanting to hear a full album, which I hope so. You know, it's definitely not designed that way, the way Spotify works. But you know. If you can put out enough bangers of singles that lead up to an album that has a little bit more than what just those singles, maybe it can do something, you know?
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, you don't have to collect vinyl either. You know what I mean? Buy the whole album. Buy the whole album. What are you doing? Files wise.
I got a brand here. Yes, you want to collect.
I'm just saying, there's still other ways. Yeah. Yes, vinyl would be the preferred.
Yeah, no doubt. No, you're right. You're right. So like, I look at my I look at my Bandcamp like my page, and I've got like I think I'm over 400 titles now. Now some of it's singles, but some of it are EPs, but like you know, I try to buy the full album whenever I can of something. So, and like it's, you know. I love it. I think it sounds better than I think Spotify has low quality sound coming through their streaming, and like I'll play the same album and I'll have to turn it up to hear it better on Spotify. You know what I mean? So it's like they're a thing, but again, it comes down to like the work you have to put in to like actually search and find a band, and then to me that's the best part. That scavenger hunt, man. That's like you want to go out there. Like I used to keep a list of things that I want to find in the wild. That's what I call it. Like something you find in the wild.
I have one of those. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And like I can order it, but why? I want to be able to find this. You know, I want to find this and be like, yes, like it's a goal.
My brother is 25, 26. and so substantially younger than I am. And he's the era of, like, he and I talked about this. He's the era of cell phone music. So it's like most of the stuff he's hearing these days is literally played out of his cell phone, whether it's played out of his cell phone into his car or played out of his cell phone, just, laying on the table or something. So that, I think when people hear like a record on a turntable, they go, oh shit, is that what it's supposed to sound like? Like that's like the normal reaction. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because it's hi-fi and it's bassy and it's mixed the way the artist or the production, the producer, the engineer wanted it to sound when it came out. Like, you could listen to Led Zeppelin on your phone, or you could put the needle down and it takes your whole fucking breath away,
The moment dude, was it Led Zeppelin 4? I think I have. And the moment you put the needle down, you get that crackle and pop, and I'm like, oh,
dude, when the riff kicks in and it's like come from the land of the ice and stuff. It's everything stops in my life.
Oh man,
everything slows down. Everything's a little bit dimmer. Everything's a little bit quieter.
I want to do ASMR of like records.
You should do that. You could do that on TikTok also. You could be like, listen to this. And it's literally just like, you could get like,
just the intro. You can just do the intros, like, cause that's it. Like when you, when you put the needle down and you have to wait, like it's 15 to 20 seconds before that kicks in, and then it's there and you're like, whoo, everything
that's
is
genius, dude. Yeah. That's genius. Cause also you could do like, you could get some of those records that have like extra cuts of things. So like stuff that's like not trimmed, or like, other recordings. Like there's a lot of like pet sounds where you can hear like Brian Wilson talking, and, and you could literally just do like, shh, like, right. And then you put the needle down and you hear, like, if you listen, you can hear Brian Wilson talk about how that piano part isn't played right. Listen, I would absolutely scroll that on TikTok in a heartbeat, dude.
we might find our thing to make millions right here, buddy.
I think it's pretty good, actually. I fully support this.
So all right, so you put up a question post, right? Did you get anything? I got one on our end.
I did. I mean, I put it all on my phone, so I can't I'll have to pause the video to go look at it. But yeah, what's the question from your end?
All right, so the one from me, the first one from me, what I can do too is I can go into the Facebook post you tagged me in, and I can see them there. But even if you pause the video, I think the sound will still be up. So
yeah, it will.
Yeah.
So grab the ones off Facebook. I think there's one that wasn't on Facebook. I'll grab that really quick.
All right, cool. You want? All right, the first one was name a band from the past that you would have loved to tour with, and why.
Oh man, that's a great question. The Clash, obviously. Like the Clash, built my whole existence for all of my formative years. Like, I wanted to embody that band. I think it would have been great to have conversations with Joe Strummer. There's a really great documentary by Dick Rude called Let's Rock Again, about like the last 6 months of Joe Strummer's life. Mm-hmm. And in there, he will go to show. He was touring with the Mescaleros, and he'll go to shows, and like there's a couple really great shots of him talking to kids like outside of venues and stuff. But I feel like it would have been great to get some of that guy's knowledge before he passed. Also, like Mick Ronson from the Spiders from Mars, and like he played with David Bowie and he played with Mott the Hoople. He's one of my favorite guitar players. So I would have loved to have toured with anything that Mick Ronson or Ian Hunter or David Bowie did when Mick Ronson was playing with them.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
Yeah, but nice. Yeah, the Clash, man. I'd kill to be able to do that.
All right, we got a couple here on the Facebook post. You wanted me to read those too?
Yeah, sure.
All right, cool. Your thoughts on how musicians earn a living in today's increasingly streaming service world, similar to how writers and actors in their unions were asking for change recently. Do you think the crosses over into the music industry?
That's great. That's my friend Jen. We went to high school together. She's amazing. Yeah, that's a really great question. I'm super pro union in every single part of the world. Like every single industry, I'm super pro union. I think I would love to see musicians start to unionize. Part of the problem would be, I think, kind of establishing where and when you could join the union, like how much you would have to do, because different genres do different things, like certain genres play live less, and more genres do online stuff. Like if you're a DJ, or if you're just like a guy at home just making tracks, and that would take some figuring out. But I do think that unionizing could help a whole lot. I would say without the union part of it in there. What was the first half of that question?
Yeah, the first half is your thoughts on how musicians earn a living in today's increasingly streaming service world.
Yeah, so the way to do that is to go play live. Absolutely, to go play live. And you know what? Play some shit shows in the middle of nowhere. To play Omaha to fucking no one. Play, play.
I mean,
play the warehouse in La Crosse, Wisconsin to no one.
Yeah.
But because sooner or later it'll start to add up, and write good songs. That's a big one too. Like, there's so many bands. This is probably more towards the punk world, but there's so many bands that just write a song and they're like, "Yeah, it's a song. It's good." You know what I mean? And that's the end of the process. And there's so many of my friends' bands. Obviously, I'm not going to name any of them, but that there are times they'll send me the record and I'll be like, "I know you just kind of like put it out. You like recorded it and that's the end. And, you didn't sit and think on it. You didn't do rewrites. You didn't bounce it off of people before you recorded it. Like, people don't know that. I would send, when we were first making the Drowns' first 2 albums, I was sending songs to people who were friends of mine who were, in my opinion, better songwriters than me. And I was asking them for advice and what they would change. And then I averaged all of that. And I started, making that my process by their advice. And I think that's something that a lot of people don't do. Mm. So I think writing good songs is a big one too. Focus more time on songwriting. You know what? You don't have to learn music theory. When people say music theory, it's a really scary term to musicians, especially punk musicians. But you do need to learn enough to where you can get the ideas that are in here across to the ear of the other person. So I think also spending time learning about songwriting, spending time, don't go to school for it. Fucking read on the internet. The internet's free. And, learn more about songwriting, learn more about how to write better songs that you think sound good and get those out there. So be your own producer. That's a big way to say that, I guess.
Cool. Very good answer, my friend. All right, this one here, you answered. I will 100% fucking answer this. So you're going to have to answer this one. It says, could you address the economy of being a traveling musician as it relates to skyrocketing cost of late night donor?
Donor, yeah.
Donor? All right. I don't even know what that is. What is that?
So that's my friend Ben Coleman from the band Hunting Lions. They're on the same label as us, and we just brought them to Europe with us, and they went on tour with us, and they're just great guys. They're a cool, like, oi, kind of like street rock band, street punk band, and great people. So absolutely, I think people should check them out. They just put out a new album that's really great. He was making a joke because Donor is like kebabs. It's like the kebab food in Germany, and there's a big scene of it, especially in like Berlin. But it is getting more expensive. So, he was mostly poking fun. But I do think, the idea that like your average working musician has a bunch of spending money on their day-to-day, like fucking food, is just not a thing. It's like, we have to be smart about what we do.
Yeah. All right, let's see. Run a comparison by continent, country, type of venue where you get treated best, who pays you the best. Is there any pattern that you recognize?
Oh, that's a great question there. I think promoters have a lot to do with it. So promoters in different cities, like that, you know what? That's another way for someone to get involved. If they're not in a band or they're done being in bands, they don't want to be a musician anymore. They don't want to run an incredible record service. That'll mail you vinyl.
Yes. Say it.
I'm sorry. That's another way to do it, is become a promoter. And, you can put on shows, and all you got to do is start booking shows. Like that's a great way to get involved. But to answer that question, I think a lot of times it depends on the promoter. Obviously Europe, like we already touched on today, Europe, values art a lot more. I have friends who live in certain countries who get stipends from the government because they're artists.
Yep.
And so there's extra money that they're given to physically create. So there's a nurtured environment over there. that passes on from just people who make art in those countries to us coming over and touring. We're treated better also. It's the same kind of virtuous, like, thank you for making art. You know, we appreciate you coming to our country kind of thing. So arguably we get treated better, you know, over there.
Yeah.
But in the US, it has a lot to do with the promoter in that town, how hard they want to work. If they want to, you know, if they want to put on your show, they want to find good locals. They want to support that show by, you know, flyering, getting paid ads on the internet, things like this. And, you know, that's not stuff they necessarily have to do out of pocket necessarily. It can all be talked in, you know, when it comes to deals, it can all be talked about beforehand. Mm-hmm. But I think that's a good thing for more people to be getting into these days is being promoter, because a club loves a good promoter. So like, let's say, you know, like we have a place like, you know, El Corazon is this legendary venue here in Seattle. If you're a good promoter and when your shows happen, you promote the crap out of them and people show up, why would that club not want you to keep doing that?
Yeah.
You know, like that you're making them money. So it's like,
and all you really, and I feel like to you approach a venue, right? And say they don't typically do it or whatever, you know, just say, give me one shot. Let me do this on a, you know, on a Thursday, Friday night or something where, instead of karaoke one night, let's do this and see if you like it. You know what I mean? It's very easy just to ask, because the worst they're going to say is no. They're not going to laugh at you. They're going to be like, it's not really our thing. Or they're going to be, you know, or they're going to be like, yeah, let's give it a shot. You know, it's more, I worked at a place that like we would have meetings and and the owner would be like, all right, like, what do you guys want to do? You know, like, what do you think we could do to draw in more? And then we got to host nights. So that means it's something like that. Like a lot of these places, especially smaller venues, they're waiting for the big thing to happen, you know?
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah. So
and they're not going to say no to help.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Hey, can I help book a band? No. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like absolutely not.
Yeah.
No, we hate money.
Yeah. But instead they're just booking like the same cover band because they don't know anybody else. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's the thing. I think people could get involved that way. I've thought about doing it. I do so much right now, but like I'm so like stretched at the moment. Like I certainly want. I mean, I'm doing a house show next week to help out a touring musician. So, you know.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Hell
so
yeah.
we'll see. We'll probably 15 people hopefully, and everyone. We did one here a couple years ago, and like the musicians made money. You know what I mean? They made a little bit of money, more than they would normally make. You know, at a show. So
it's what's crazy is sometimes when you just don't have a door price and you ask for donations, the artist ends up making even more.
Yeah.
Because the people who are there actually want to be there.
And it helps having me walk around and go, give me some money for these guys.
Yeah, to touch back on the huge angry bear at a picnic thing.
Yeah. So, you know, it was cool. It was awesome. And I'm pumped to do this. And like, and I've met people now that like, they're like, hey, why don't you come out to, you know, XY, like this city and do a show with us? They're like a podcast and they put on shows sometimes and they're like, let's get together and do it. Bring some bands from there and we'll bring a couple from here and then we'll put it together, you know? So there are ways.
I say two more years, Trev, and you and I will book you doing a live podcast. 2 more years.
What do you mean?
In front of a crowd, like you doing a live podcast.
Well, we did the evening with Michael Caine. We did that. That was So, but like a
I think
regular
that's the thing you should do.
It would be a lot of fun. I'd have to find the right venue that would be like okay with it, because it's like, what are you gonna, you know what I mean? It'd be tough to sell, I think, a podcast to a venue. You know.
I don't know. You could do it at like 7-Eleven. You could do it like.
I tried to do it in a band space. This past year, and boy, did that not go?
No, man, just go to like Plowing Stars and be like, "Yo, give me a Tuesday."
I don't even know what that is. What's Plowing Stars?
Oh, it's a bar in Cambridge.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
but they do like shows and stuff, but it's really small.
Yeah,
but it's a. You've never been to the Plowing Stars?
No, dude. You know, I'm gonna sidebar real quick. I was talking to Tobin and Kyle of Flatfoot 56. And and like, you know, you guys came up in our conversation and I told them that like, you tell me more about bands from Boston than I've ever heard of. Like, you've introduced more Boston bands to me that I've known, like that I didn't know, you know? So yeah, no, I think I have heard of Plowing Stars. I just didn't know. I thought it was a strip club the way this sounds. So.
Yeah. Well, it does. One of the greatest shows I ever saw in my life was in that bar. It was this incredible blues singer. We talked about Frank Maury, and it's just incredible. And he actually just played a live show recently too, but he owns a barbershop now and barely does music anymore. But yeah, it was in this tiny little bar in Cambridge, and it's literally like blocks. It's maybe 10, 15 blocks from the Middle East, right there on Mass Ave.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I should.
We
You're
talked
right.
too much about that. Realistically, it's a small bar. You could do a show there.
You're right. I should do something. It'd be cool. It'd be cool to do stuff like that. Like, there's other things I've been toying with and kind of like working on, and I'll fill you in behind the scenes after this, but because it's nowhere near being ready to put it out there yet. So, but it'd be some fun things that we could do and that I could do. And again, I'm just trying to help. Like someone like, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier about getting like bigger bands to come on here. Just like, to try to get that pop for the smaller bands that are here. But like, someone asked me like, what do you want to do with this podcast? Like, do you want it to be like huge? And I'm like, I want it to be a decent size, but not for me, like for all of you, you know what I mean? For all the people who come on, like, that's what I do. Like, I'm promoting bands, so why wouldn't I book a show?
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm trying to promote all the bands that I love, that I've become friends with, and then I meet new people, and like I said, I just had Flat 56 on. Like, that to me was like a huge deal for me. Like,
great guys. Great guys.
Yeah, I remember the first time I heard their record, and I was like, what is this? You know what I mean? So, and that was at the beginning of like streaming is when I first heard them. So we're talking like Knuckles Up, Jungle of the Midwest Sierra, and I was like, whoa, who are these guys? You know what I mean? And like, so like, it's cool. And to me, like, they're a huge band, and to have them on was enormous. And I'm pumped to see them. They're coming out this way. I never had a chance to see them. So,
it's probably nice to have someone taller than you on the podcast too.
Oh man. I don't know, man. I'm nervous about that. Like I'm a toxic person, Rev. When people are taller than me, I get a chip on my shoulder. I'm like, look at this guy,
How old are you?
I'm 43.
How old? Sorry, how tall?
I'm 6'5". I'm 6'5".
Oh yeah, he's got 5 inches.
Yeah,
on
Tobin's got 5 inches. I think Kyle's pretty tall too. Kyle might be taller than me too. I'm not sure. But yeah, no, like, so, but they were the nicest guys ever, and they love music, and like we exchanged music, like, I tell everyone about Coffin Salesman. I'm like, you got to check out Coffin Salesman. They've got a clarinet player. And he's like, oh, I'm writing that down, because they played with, they have like strange instruments, quote unquote, you know what I mean? So
yeah,
for them, like, that's like, oh, cool, let's see what they sound like, So yeah, I don't know, man. I'm just like trying to help everybody I can. And again, the same thing. Like, we do the monthly episodes. There are ways out there for people to help, and I want to see more people get on board with that. Like, I want to, like you said, like if we have a big influx of down here, like and I'm not saying down here is a bad thing, but like, the more independent artists, then yeah, the top price is going to have to come down a little bit, right? If no one's going to see, I mean, people are always going to go see them, the rich, but like I honestly feel like, if you have just rich people at a Taylor Swift show, she's not going to like it.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Right?
Yeah. So,
sooner or later, you're only playing to a specific crowd.
Yeah.
People who can afford that or can casually spend $750 on a ticket. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I know where her beach house is. It's in my hometown. Maybe I'll bring some bands there. We'll just play out in front of her house.
It'd be so awesome. Like roll up on like a flatbed. Just like,
oh, I'd get arrested so fat. They hate me there. So,
well, back to your size too. You show up and you're like, Taylor Swift. Do you hear these bands? It's just, it's humid. You're sweaty.
Oh man, that would be great. Do you want to get that last question from yours or?
Yeah. Let me see. I know I wrote it down.
Yeah. I think. Oh, you're still with me. You're not paused.
Oh, cool. So it was from. So Goldmine magazine was a record collecting magazine that was like big all through the 70s, 80s. I think it started in the 60s. Might be quoting that wrong, but it was like a vinyl collector's magazine, right? And so we happened to come in contact with a guy who now owns it and is kicking it back off and getting it going again. The Gold Mine magazine is coming back. It's a magazine for record collectors by record collectors. It's awesome. It's someone you should know.
Yeah.
And I will put you in contact with because it makes sense.
Yes.
But so Alan, or Dr. Disc, as he's called, the guy who owns Gold Mine, he asked if I visited any good record stores in Europe and if I found any good like vinyl. And we didn't have a whole lot of time on this one, but our friend, our tour manager, Maria, and her husband, they own Steel Town Records, which is in Eastern Germany, and it's an independent record store for like a lot of subculture music like ska, reggae, punk, oi. And they're awesome. And they send records all over the world, and they're just great. And for my 40th birthday, which I had when we were in Europe,
Happy
they gave
birthday,
me
my friend.
thank you, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
They gave me like a travel vinyl case. So I now have a case I can take on tour with me. That's like, it probably fits like, I would guess like maybe 15 records. And it's just like a little reinforced case that's like I can put in the carry, or like the, like the carry on thing on the plane. And that was super cool. So I did get some records from there. Mostly bands we played with, but they did give me a Shelter record that I was looking for, because I do have a random affinity for Krishna hardcore.
That's awesome.
Now there's one album by Shelter called When 20 Summers Pass that I love. It's just a lot of great songs, really positive. Ray Capo from Music Today, and there's a song on that record specifically, and there was a repress that Thomas from Steel Town gave me for my birthday. And there's a song on there called, the album's called When 20 Summers Pass. The song is called In the Van Again. And it's probably my favorite song about being in a touring band. It like perfectly kind of like describes how like weird and goofy and transient and like a oboe style lifestyle you have for most of your career. And then at the very end of the song, he has this really great final verse about how he wouldn't change anything because it's the greatest thing that he's ever done.
That's awesome.
And it's a beautiful song. In the Van Again, off of When 20 Summers Pass by Shelter. Everyone should listen to that song.
Awesome. All right, cool. All right. I mean, we went around the map here, right? Are we good? We
covered everything I wanted to cover. I need to get that out there. It was important to me. You're the first person I texted. Sorry, Matt Ricks.
I thought I wasn't gonna say nothing, but yeah, fuck that guy.
But you're the first person I texted, because I was like, there were so many people talking about Ticketmaster and expensive ticket prices, and I was like, man, stop bitching and get active.
Yeah,
I will say, you change it.
I went to a show this year. And it was it was a local show. Obviously, I don't go to big shows, so and I actually paid more for my ticket through the advanced ticketing than I would have at the door.
That's amazing.
And I was like, yeah, whatever,
because of the fees. Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, whatever.
Some of those fees. I get it, right? The argument is valid. Some of those fees are it's like service charge and like surcharge, and you're like, you're not being legit about what this specifically is.
Well, and you know what? It was like, for me, it wasn't a big deal, but I thought I laughed at it. But like for me, it also like a lot of places will cancel a show if they don't have enough pre-sales. And like it's so I'm whenever I can, I do the pre-sale, because like I
what's crazy about that though is that walk up is becoming more popular.
Walk up in Boston has always been the thing. Because of that. Yeah.
Because of the possibility of a show getting canceled, why would I pre-buy a ticket just to save $10?
Yeah.
It's like, because then it'll be hard for me to get all of the ticket price back.
Yeah.
Like if the show gets canceled.
Yeah. So yeah,
I'm all walk up, dog. I don't do that. I try not to do the pre-sale stuff if I can.
Yeah, I mean, I do it because I know it helps the band, but like it helps get the show to go. But again, at the same time, like I always buy way more tickets than I need to, and I'm like, hey, who wants to go? And then sometimes I give them away. Sometimes I don't even go. Like, you know what I mean? But I bought the tickets.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's always weird. It's always weird. I tell you though, I went back to Deep Cuts recently, and I saw the Iron Roses play.
Oh, cool.
Oh, they're so good. And like, I couldn't believe how like inexpensive my ticket was to go see them. You know what I mean? Because like they're
Good.
they're going to be real.
Spend the money on their shit.
Yeah. I think they're going to be. I think that band's going to be really, really big, really, really shortly. So
I like that venue. I like Deep Cuts.
Oh,
It's
Deep
cool.
Cuts is great. And
The folks who ran it were all super cool.
yeah, everything about it was cool. Yeah, so that's a good place. I like that one. So all right, Rev, I love you, man. Thank you for coming on.
I love you too, brother.
I thank you for hitting me up instead of Matt Ricks. Just kidding. I don't know,
No,
man.
you're not.
Well, let's run through what we always run through. Where can people find the Drowns?
Everywhere on the internet. Google it. Go to, Spotify. But listen to the whole album. You're going to do that. Listen to the whole record. It's only half an hour.
Yeah.
Listen to the whole fucking album.
That's like driving to get coffee. Like you know what I mean? Like just listen to it. Yeah.
Go to Bandcamp, or you can buy the vinyl at Pirates Press Records. Or if you're in Europe, there's plenty of places like Cortex or Steel Town to find the record. So,
Cool.
but honestly, come to a show. That's the way to do it. And I'll high five you, and we'll talk about anything you want to. You can criticize my music taste or my opinion on Taylor Swift concert ticket prices. It's fine.
Well, you got a tour starting what in a week?
We go to San Francisco and play Crash Fest next weekend.
Okay.
And then we've actually got a month off. And then I'm back in Europe in August.
In August.
And
okay.
so August for 2 weeks in Europe. And then like days after we get home, we go on tour on the West Coast with our friends in the Last Gang. Great band. Everybody should check out the Last Gang. Great people.
Very
too.
good band. Very good band. Cool. All right. And then, well, you're not going to tease us with any new music. So, not right now.
Nope, not at all. I'm taking a break.
Yeah. So, man, thanks for coming on and doing this. And, I think it was a good thing to do. And you gave some solid advice there for bands that are starting out. And, so when I told you, whenever you need, I told you, and I answered the call, right? I said, whenever you need to come on
That's
here.
why I texted you. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It was your prompt. You were like, anytime you want to talk about something.
Yeah.
The other day I was like, I have something to fucking talk about.
Yeah, so we'll go. Yeah, well, hopefully next time we get on here, we'll have some news to pop.
We will.
All right, cool. We'll talk to you soon.
All right, brother.
All right, and that's the show. I want to thank Rev again for being today's guest on the Struggling Artist Podcast. In the show notes, you will find links to all things The Drowns. Thank you to Chris Chavez for producing the podcast. Thank you to State Line Records for sponsoring this podcast. And a special thank you to the band Losers Circle, who is always kind enough to let us use their song Great Illusion of Time off of their album Took Long Enough. You can always find a link to that record if you want to pick it up in our link tree as well as on our website, which is thestrugglingartistpodcast.com. Thank you to everybody supporting us over at Patreon. If you want to become a patron, head to patreon.com/podcast TSA. If you follow us on social media, you would have seen a post that was pretty cryptic about an upcoming giveaway. Chris Chavez, producer of the show, is going nuts, and he's doing a 3-month giveaway to Struggling Artist Record Club. How it works, I do not know yet, but I will give you details when he decides he wants to give me the details. Again, he is going a little crazy, and he's kind of taking the reins on this, and I'm going to let him. He did say to mention top tier patrons will have first dibs on however we do the giveaway, or however Chris decides that the giveaway is going to go. So if you become a patron and you go to the top tier, you will get you will get early access to the giveaway, which is always a plus. Thank you to everybody who listens to the podcast, comments, sends out emails to us at Trev at the Struggling Artist Podcast. Or Chris, I think it's Chris. I don't know. It might not be Chris at the Struggling Artist Podcast. I'll get back to you on what his email is over there. And leaves us messages on the hotline. If you want to text or leave a voicemail message, call 774-570-1552. And leave us a message. Text us a message. Whatever you want to do, it's available for everyone. You let us know how you feel. We'll play it on the podcast, or we'll talk about it if it's a text. Again, that number is 774-570-1552. All right, we're getting out of here with a song. Rev was kind enough to give us a song to play off of their latest, off the Drown's latest album, Blacked Out. The song is called Chancer. Until next week, take care of yourselves. We'll talk to you then.